Welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast. Today we're embarking on an exploration of a literary classic that maybe beneath its familiar surface reveals layers of the truly unexpected and, well, profoundly unsettling. Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. This isn't just your standard story of romance and societal constraints. It's really a journey through profound isolation, relentless self-discovery, and some, quite frankly, inexplicable encounters. Our mission today is to unpack the fascinating nuggets of knowledge and insight hidden within this rich narrative, showing how Jane's experiences and maybe even the structure of the novel itself can feel both deeply human and strangely disquieting.
Yes, and what's particularly compelling about Jane Eyre, I think, is how Brontë crafts this world that persistently pushes the boundaries of what we consider normal or expected. She puts Jane in these situations that evoke a profound sense of disquiet or psychological strangeness, constantly blurring the lines between, external reality and her internal torment. We'll be exploring how Jane confronts not just the visible challenges of her life, but also that unsettling otherness, the uncanny, both within herself and in her environment.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Well, we'll see how Jane's extraordinary resilience and her relentless quest for autonomy, they really resonate deeply even today, and how these unsettling, uncanny elements serve to highlight profound truths about identity, justice, and the complex nature of love. And just to clarify, when we talk about the uncanny in a literary sense today, we're not just talking about ghosts or, jump scares. It's that unsettling feeling you get when something deeply familiar, something that should be comforting, suddenly becomes strange, disturbing, maybe even menacing. It often reveals some hidden truth, doesn't it?
Exactly, like a repressed element breaking through the surface. And Brontë is a master at this, turning ordinary settings, ordinary relationships into sources of profound psychological disquiet.
Okay, let's begin at the very start then, in the desolate confines of Gateshead Hall, where we first meet young Jane Eyre. She's described right away as a discordant element in the Reed household, an outsider from the moment we meet her. She's set apart, branded as inferior, deliberately excluded from privileges, constantly accused. Mrs. Reed, her aunt, makes it explicitly clear she regrets to be under the necessity of keeping me at a distance, basically saying Jane's unfit for privileges intended only for contented, happy little children.
Yeah, it's not just casual unkindness, is it? It's a systematic psychological assault. Jane gets labeled a cavalier or questioner just for asking what she did wrong. She's caught in this constant barrage where she's always browbeaten, always accused, forever condemned.
And the suffering isn't just emotional, it's physical too. Remember John Reed, the bully cousin?
Oh, yes, a monster.
He would thrust out his tongue at me as far as he could without damaging the roots, knowing full well he would soon strike. He'd call her horrible names like rat, rat, and just bellow at her, even when his mother was there.
And Mrs. Reed often just turned a blind eye, which is just awful. And this raises a really critical point. How does that kind of early, consistent injustice shape Jane's perception of the world and her own developing a sense of self? Her internal monologue, which Brontë gives us, amazing access to, reveals this really precocious reason asserting unjust. Unjust. It's such a stark contrast to her external powerlessness.
Yeah, it's a foundational experience, isn't it? It sets this deeply unsettling pattern for all her future encounters with authority and society.
Absolutely. Brontë uses that powerful metaphor for Jane's disturbed mind, likening it to a dark deposit in a turbid well, suggesting the lasting psychological impact, the sediment of this abuse. And despite Jane trying so hard to fulfill every duty, she's perpetually termed naughty and tiresome, sullen and sneaking from morning to noon and from noon to night.
Which contrasts so sharply with how Eliza and Georgiana are treated. Eliza's headstrong and selfish, but respected. Georgiana has a spoiled temper, yet she's universally indulged because she's pretty.
The injustice is just so blatant, so pervasive. Jane even feels that pang of remorse and the chill of reaction after she defies them, which shows how deeply ingrained that unfairness is in her psyche.
It's a childhood completely stripped of safety, really, replaced by this unsettling, unpredictable hostility. And then we come to the incident that truly introduces that feeling of the uncanny into Jane's young life. The Red Room.
Ah, yes, the Red Room.
This isn't just a punishment. It becomes this crucible of fear, a chilling confrontation with the perceived supernatural. She gets locked in the very room where Mr. Reed died and was laid out.
The fear is immediate, isn't it? And profound. She starts remembering stories she'd heard of dead men revisiting the earth to punish the perjured and avenge the oppressed.
Her imagination just runs wild. She believes Mr. Reed's spirit might quit its abode and rise before me in this chamber. And then something actually happens. a physical manifestation of her terror. A light gleamed on the wall. She wonders, was it a ray from the moon? But no, moonlight was still, and this stirred. While I gazed, it glided up to the ceiling.
That psychological terror is so palpable. And it manifests physically, too. She mentions somewhat pungent suffering, and her head still ached and bled from John's earlier attack.
Her desperate cry, "Oh, I saw a light and I thought a ghost would come," just shows her raw fear.
And the adults' reactions are incredibly telling, especially Mrs. Reed's look-like fear, as if she sees Jane as some kind of child or fiend, when Jane finally dares to accuse her of cruelty and invokes her dead uncle.
That moment when she declares, "I'm glad you are no relation of mine. I will never call you aunt again. I hate you." Powerful stuff.
This experience in the Red Room is absolutely pivotal. It really shapes her worldview. And Brontë presents it with such ambiguous reality, doesn't she?
Exactly. Was it a ghost? Or was it just her trauma and fever playing tricks on her mind?
The text deliberately leaves it open, and that creates this distinctly uncanny effect where something familiar, like a room in a house, becomes profoundly disturbing. This is where her reason, forced by the agonizing stimulus into precocious though transitory power, really starts to assert itself.
It's a turning point, for sure, where she confronts Mrs. Reed directly. That declaration, "I will never call you aunt again, I hate you." It's so liberating, but born from such extreme duress.
Yet, Brontë, being the realist she is, doesn't just let her have this triumphant moment without consequence. It's immediately followed by the pang of remorse and the chill of reaction. Jane later reflects on this, seeing her mind as that ridge of lighted heath, alive, glancing, devouring, but then black and blasted after the flames are dead.
Right, she tastes that vengeance as aromatic wine, but it quickly turns metallic and corroding like being poisoned.
That deep internal struggle, the complex psychological aftermath, it's just as significant as the event itself. It powerfully underlines that uncanny blend of the real and the imagined within her developing mind.
It forces her to recognize her own fierce independence, doesn't it? Even if it comes at a huge personal cost. Okay, so from the frying pan into the fire, as they say. From the hostile home of Gateshead to the harsh institution of Lowood, Jane's arrival there introduces a new kind of unsettling environment, one defined by systemic deprivation and this chilling, cold discipline. And it's all presided over by the formidable Mr. Brocklehurst.
Brocklehurst, yes.
The initial description of him is profoundly unsettling. He appears as a black pillar with a grim face at the top, like a carved mask, just visually imposing and cold.
And his immediate judgment of Jane is so chillingly impersonal. Her size is small. "What is your age?" he asks Mrs. Reed, like he's discussing livestock or something.
Then he grills her about hell and how to avoid it. She gives the ready and orthodox answer that wicked people go to hell, specifically, a pit full of fire.
And Mrs. Reed, still full of malice, throws in that lie about Jane's tendency to deceit, which just wounds Jane so deeply and sets her up for being ostracized there.
Yeah, the contrast between Brocklehurst's outward piety and his cruel, deeply hypocritical practices is immediately obvious. You see in the living conditions at Lowood.
Absolutely. The girls get fed burnt porridge, tiny, small portions. They suffer in freezing conditions where the contents of the ewers turn to ice in their bedrooms. It's pervasive neglect, and it's profoundly disturbing. This whole segment really highlights a different kind of uncanny, the dehumanizing effect of rigid ideology and institutional control. Brocklehurst's stated mission to mortify in these girls the lusts of the flesh leads directly to tangible suffering. It's a kind of spiritual and physical starvation.
He's obsessed with controlling the outside of the cup and platter, as the Bible says, right? But Brontë subtly implies the girls' inner lives, their spirits, are maybe further beyond his interference than he imagined.
Yes, exactly. And you see this so vividly when he publicly shames Jane, forces her to stand on that stool for hours, denounces her to the entire school.
He says it's lest her vicious example should contaminate their purity. It's such an arbitrary and utterly cruel judgment.
And his rules are equally absurd and dehumanizing. Like the decree to cut off all those top knots of hair, demanding plainness over any natural beauty or individuality.
That arbitrary nature of his punishments, the pervasive coldness of the institution, it creates this environment that subtly unnerves you, doesn't it? Where the expected comfort of care is just twisted into something oppressive and alienating.
It really does. It's a place where the familiar structure of a boarding school becomes something else entirely.
But amidst all this bleakness, we find another key figure, Helen Burns.
Ah, Helen. Yes. A very different kind of influence.
Her philosophy of Christian endurance and forgiveness is such a striking contrast to Jane's fiery sense of injustice, her impulse to fight back. We see Helen suffering under Miss Scatcherd's constant reproofs and physical punishments. She gets hit with a dozen strokes with a bunch of twigs for tiny mistakes.
Yet, Jane's observation of her is astonishing. Not a tear rose to Burns' eye, and not a feature of her pensive face altered its ordinary expression.
And Jane, with her raw desire to strike back again very hard, she just can't comprehend it at first.
Helen, though, she believes deeply in turning the other cheek. She finds solace in this profound strength in her unwavering faith.
Her calm acceptance of death, her belief in that invisible world in a kingdom of spirits where angels see our tortures, recognize our innocence, it provides this spiritual dimension that both comforts and challenges Jane's more sort of earthly struggle for justice.
It's a pivotal relationship, really. It expands Jane's understanding of what strength can look like. Helen's unwavering spirit in the face of that immense suffering is truly profound, a beacon in the gloom of Lowood. Her belief in that invisible world, it's such a powerful counter-narrative to the harsh material reality they're living in. It's a real aha moment for Jane, isn't it? Showing a different path to strength and peace.
Even though it contains that alloy of inexpressible sadness given Helen's tragic fate.
Right, and that spiritual solace exists within this world of brutal reality. The tragedy of the typhus fever outbreak just emphasizes the awful conditions at Lowood.
Where many, already smitten, went home only to die. Some died at the school and were buried quietly and quickly. It's horrific.
And Helen herself eventually succumbs to consumption, doesn't she? Jane holds her as she dies. Such a quiet, poignant scene.
And that epidemic, which was a direct consequence of the school's awful conditions and Brocklehurst's neglect, it forces a public inquiry that finally brings about some much-needed change.
Highlighting how those systemic issues lead to widespread, unsettling suffering. Helen's impact on Jane is just lasting. It instills in her a sense of inner strength that transcends physical hardship. It's another echo, perhaps, of that uncanny ability to find peace amidst desolation and to understand different forms of resilience.
Okay, so with the tragic closure of her Lowood chapter, Jane, who's now matured by hardship and Helen's influence, she sets out to find a new path. Years later, she seeks a new servitude, a new place in the world distinct from her past, and she finds it at Thornfield Hall. Initially, it seems like a safe haven, a much-needed break, but pretty soon it reveals its own deeply unsettling and mysterious nature.
Right. Jane is very practical about it, isn't she? She notes, servitude, that must be matter of fact. Anyone may serve. I've served here 8 years now. All I want is to... She wants something tangible, practical, not some romantic ideal.
Her journey to Thornfield is such a contrast to her past, leaving Lowood's privations for what seems like a more comfortable life. The house itself, initially promising and safe, with its gay blue chintz window curtains and carpeted floor, so unlike the bare planks and stained plaster of Lowood, soon starts giving off these eerie impressions.
Yeah, from its wide hall, that dark and spacious staircase, and that long, cold gallery, it subtly hints at deeper, concealed aspects, an unsettling past maybe. This new environment, while it is initially comforting, a huge relief from Lowood's austerity, it gradually reveals this profound sense of the other. The very atmosphere of Thornfield becomes infused with an unnameable presence, creating this continuous undercurrent of disquiet.
And her first encounter with Mr. Rochester, the master of Thornfield, is anything but conventional. It's almost supernatural in how it unfolds. She first meets him in that solitary lane after he falls from his horse, but before she even sees Rochester, she spots what she thinks is a Gytrash.
Right. That mythical creature, like a lion-like creature with long hair and a huge head, that passes her quietly enough.
Turns out it's just Rochester's dog, Pilot, followed by his horse, and then Rochester himself.
And her initial perception of him isn't the conventional hero, is it? He's got a dark face with stern features and a heavy brow.
Yet despite his gruffness and the strangeness of the meeting, she remarkably feels no fear of him and but little shyness.
That unusual first meeting really subverts expectations, doesn't it? Sets the tone for their unconventional and often perplexing relationship.
He's definitely not the handsome, heroic-looking young gentleman she might have expected.
Which is part of his unconventional, almost unsettling appeal, perhaps.
And then the truly perplexing incidents begin. That strange, disembodied laugh.
Oh, the laugh. Yes.
The inexplicable fire in Rochester's bed. These are moments of pure, unnerving horror, shrouded in secrecy. She first hears a laugh when she's alone on the 3rd story. A low, syllabic tone, ending in an odd murmur. She calls it as tragic, as preternatural a laugh as any I ever heard. It just chills you.
And later, she's awakened by the same sound, finds Rochester's bed curtains on fire, him stretched motionless in deep sleep, moments from death.
She acts so quickly, dousing the flames with water. Her suspicion immediately falls on Grace Poole.
Ah, Grace Poole, the seemingly ordinary, perpetually watchful servant who's always around. Her absolute impenetrability is past comprehension.
When Jane tries to question her, Grace's brazen coolness and inscrutable hypocrisy are just deeply unsettling, especially when she's just asking for a pint of porter and bit of pudding.
The repeated references to her strange, unearthly laugh and her peculiar behavior just deepen the mystery. Grace becomes this uncanny figure herself, a constant source of disquiet in what should be a normal household. And that sense of the uncanny is so powerfully heightened by the domestic setting of Thornfield Hall.
Exactly. The idea that something so profoundly disturbing, so terrifying, could exist within the familiar walls of a seemingly ordinary house, that's what makes it truly terrifying.
And Rochester's guardedness, his cryptic remarks like after the fire when he says, "It is as I thought," they only amplify the unsettling atmosphere. It forces Jane and us, the listeners, to relentlessly question what lies beneath the surface of this new life, this grand house.
He eventually confesses the truth to Jane, doesn't he? That Bertha perpetrated the attempt to burn me in my bed, and that she paid that ghastly visit to you.
Right. Confirming the source is human, but monstrously, tragically so. And that revelation about Grace Poole just being the keeper, not the source, it shifts the uncanny from the unknown to the horrifyingly known, yet still hidden.
It transforms Thornfield from a grand estate into, well, a prison, really. A keeper of a terrible secret. Which brings us to another really peculiar incident, Mr. Rochester's bizarre gypsy disguise.
Ah, the gypsy scene, yes. It's quite something.
It's a game, it's manipulation, but it's also this deeply flawed way for him to probe Jane's true feelings, isn't it?
It reveals his own desperate, deep-seated need for genuine connection amidst all the artifice and social pretense.
He appears as this old crone with an unaccountable voice and gestures. Initially like a withered limb of eld, but then it turns out to be a rounded, supple member giving away the disguise.
And her pronouncements are eerily accurate, cutting right to the core of Jane's isolation, telling her, you are cold, you are sick, and you are silly because you are alone. No contact, no love, no home.
It's strangely intimate, that insight into Jane's inner world, both amusing in its theatricality and profoundly invasive.
But Jane's sharp intellect sees right through it, doesn't she? She immediately recognizes his hand. The gem I had seen 100 times before shatters the illusion.
Rochester admits he was trying to draw me out or in. You have been talking nonsense to make me talk nonsense.
This bizarre interlude just reinforces the unsettling nature of their relationship. Built on layers of deceit and hidden motives, yet somehow, paradoxically, through this very artifice, it leads to a deeper understanding and this undeniable bond.
Okay, so the tension just builds and builds towards the wedding day. A day meant for joy, but instead it becomes the moment of catastrophic revelation.
Yes, the ultimate unveiling.
The truth about Bertha Mason, Rochester's living wife, just shatters Jane's hopes and plunges her into this abyss of despair. The ceremony is interrupted by Mr. Brakes, the solicitor, making that calm official announcement of an impediment.
And Richard Mason, pale and trembling, steps forward to confirm it. The marriage cannot go on. I declare the existence of an impediment. The drama is intense.
Rochester's reaction is so powerful. His whole face was colorless rock, looking as if he would defy all things. He seems ready to rage against fate.
But despite that initial defiance, he quickly decides to bolt out at once the truth to everyone there, revealing Bertha as my wife, whom I married 15 years ago, Bertha Mason by name.
It's this dramatic public humiliation exposing the horrifying secret he's carried for years.
And Bertha's introduction is, without doubt, the ultimate uncanny moment in the whole book.
She's presented as monstrous, animalistic, the embodiment of that suppressed, horrifying truth haunting Thornfield.
Her physical description is shocking, deliberately designed to evoke primal fear and disgust. The text calls her a maniac bellowed, mentions shaggy locks, a purple face, bloated features, a truly grotesque image.
And her violent attack on Richard Mason, biting him, leaving a wound in his throat, it confirms her dangerous, uncontrollable nature.
Grace Poole's ominous warning earlier, one never knows what she has, sir. She is so cunning. It is not in mortal discretion to fathom her craft, just underlines the horror of her unpredictable madness.
This horrifying unveiling connects everything, doesn't it? All those earlier unexplained events at Thornfield.
Exactly. Bertha is the source of the strange laugh, the fire, all the unaccountable happenings. She is the charnel relics under the gilding that Brontë mentioned in the preface. The hideous, decaying truth beneath Thornfield's grand facade.
Her existence is Rochester's shame and curse. He calls her a monster, a wild beast's den, the clothed hyena.
It's brutal language.
Rochester's agonizing explanation of his past with Bertha then reveals this complex backstory. Rooted in his father's avarice, a truly forced marriage, his subsequent unsettled kind of life, his attempts to find happiness abroad, it's all laid bare for Jane.
He describes Bertha's rapid decline into vice and madness, noting with despair and disgust what a pygmy intellect she had and what giant propensities.
This marriage, forced on him by his father wanting to keep the family estate together and ensure Mr. Edward should have wealth, led him into that unsettled kind of life for 10 long years.
He traveled restlessly, living first in one capital, then another, searching for his ideal of a woman, a true companion, but finding only disillusionment with his mistresses, calling it a groveling fashion of existence.
And he even admits deliberately faking courtship with Miss Ingram just to make Jane jealous.
Yes, that cruel but desperate manipulation. I wish to render you as madly in love with me as I was with you, and I knew jealousy would be the best ally. It's quite a confession. This whole confession exposes the profound depth of Rochester's sickness and anguish. It reveals a man tormented by his past, desperate for redemption. His conviction that happiness is irrevocably denied me highlights the tragic implications of his past. He says remorse is the poison of life, and reformation seems impossible while he's hampered, burdened, cursed by this secret.
Jane's internal struggle after this revelation, it's just a classic battle between conscience and passion. Maybe one of the most compelling in literature.
Absolutely. She feels her hopes were all dead struck with a subtle doom. Her love is shivered in my heart like a suffering child in a cold cradle. Sickness and anguish had seized it. Just devastating imagery.
But despite that profound emotional devastation, her decision to leave, even while loving him more than ever, is this incredible assertion of her moral autonomy and self-respect.
She declares with such unwavering conviction, I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will, which I now exert to leave you. Powerful.
This moment, where she tears herself away from the man she loves to preserve her integrity, even as it tears her apart, it's a testament to the strength she's built up over years of injustice.
She feels she must, as her internal voice dictates, pluck out your right eye, yourself cut off your right hand. Your heart shall be the victim, and you the priest to transfix it. A stark metaphor for the agonizing choice she makes.
So Jane's flight from Thornfield is just harrowing, a journey into extreme destitution, completely cut off from everything she knew.
It's raw, visceral, highlights her profound vulnerability in a world without social ties or money.
For 2 days, she wanders, without crossing a threshold, sleeps in the open air, her clothes wet with dew, utterly wretched.
And the hunger she experiences. Oh, for but a crust, for but one mouthful to allay the pang of famine. It's desperate.
Her earlier defiance, while still there in spirit, is now tempered by the stark reality of survival. She reflects, I believed in God. Let me try to wait his will in silence. A plea for strength.
And that encounter with the ignis fatuus, the deceptive light across the moor.
Yeah, such a powerful symbol, isn't it? Reflecting her desperate search for hope, only for it to vanish as she gets closer, replaced by a low wall and prickly hedge, an illusion of promise leading nowhere.
It's a journey into true existential loneliness, but this experience is absolutely vital for her character arc.
How so?
While it strips away all external support, all societal cushioning, forces her to rely solely on her deepest inner strength and faith. That ignis fatuus, that treacherous marchlight, it symbolizes the elusive, often deceptive nature of hope in her darkest hour, yet ultimately it leads her to Morehouse.
An unexpected refuge.
Exactly, a testament to her sheer perseverance and maybe, you could argue, some guiding unseen hand.
Her desperate plea at the door of Morehouse. Can you tell me where I could get employment of any kind? I am a stranger. It's met with Hannah's suspicion and refusal initially.
Hannah says, I'm feared you have some ill plans, Agate, that bring you about folks' houses at this time of night. Understandable, perhaps, but harsh.
It's only St. John River's timely intervention that saves her. Let me do mine in admitting her. I think this is a peculiar case.
That arrival is a profound turning point, offers not just shelter, but eventually true kinship. transforms her solitary despair into a glimmer of belonging.
And she finds this unexpected family in the Rivers siblings, Diana, Mary, and St. John. But while Diana and Mary offer genuine warmth, intellectual companionship, a sense of real connection, St. John presents a different kind of challenge, an almost unnerving, intimidating moral force.
Yes, St. John. His initial assessment of Jane is so clinical, so dispassionate, rather an unusual physiognomy, certainly not indicative of vulgarity or degradation.
Later he adds, with chilling frankness, she looks sensible, but not at all handsome. The grace and harmony of beauty are quite wanting in those features. Ouch.
And Jane herself feels his ever-watchful blue eye, makes her feel as if I were sitting in the room with something uncanny, as if he sees right through her into some deeper, colder truth.
There's something about his features, his nostril, his mouth, his brow, that indicates elements within either restless or hard or eager, a deep suppressed intensity.
His character is profoundly defined by that intense devotion to his missionary work, his hopes of being numbered in the band who have merged all ambitions in the glorious one of bettering their race.
He's driven by this singular, consuming purpose, almost to the exclusion of everything else.
And St. John's unsettling nature really stems from his extreme self-control and profoundly suppressed emotion.
He's a man of unwavering principle, but one whose nature feels contravened, whose faculties heaven bestowed, paralyzed, made useless by staying in England when he feels his true calling is overseas.
He openly admits his intense, almost wild love for Rosamond Oliver, describing her as exquisitely beautiful, graceful, fascinating.
Yet he deems this a love of the senses, and therefore utterly secondary, even opposed to his divine mission. He states, "She would not make me a good wife for his path."
It's this cold, rational subjugation of human emotion to a higher purpose, which is both admirable in its dedication, maybe, but also chilling in its self-denial.
He can be perceived as having an austere and despotic nature, one that has met resistance where it expected submission.
He embodies this profound conflict between earthly passion and spiritual duty, ultimately choosing duty with an almost inhuman resolve. It makes him feel both noble and profoundly alien to Jane's more passionate, humanistic spirit. His very presence creates this unsettling tension.
And then, amidst all this, comes that truly astonishing turn of events, the discovery of her true identity and the unexpected inheritance.
A huge reversal of fortune.
The revelation that the Rivers siblings are her cousins, and that she's inherited £20,000 from her uncle John Eyre. It's almost unbelievable for someone who's known only destitution.
Mr. Briggs's letter arrives, seemingly out of nowhere, revealing the will and the kinship.
And St. John, with his characteristic perseverance and almost relentless insistence, pushes Jane to acknowledge her identity and the inheritance, which she, in her disbelief and ingrained humility, initially resists.
This windfall provides Jane with the financial independence she's craved her whole life, a freedom that truly enables her autonomy.
But it also brings new emotional complexities, right? She's no longer the poor, obscure, plain and little governess.
Exactly. And true to her deep sense of integrity and newfound family connection, she chooses to share her fortune equally with her cousins.
Illustrating her deep sense of justice and fairness, exclaiming with genuine joy, famous equality and fraternization.
That act redefines her relationship with them, solidifies their bond not just by blood, but by choice and mutual respect. A truly powerful moment of self-definition.
Okay, so St. John, ever the pragmatist, guided by his missionary zeal, proposes marriage to Jane.
But not out of love.
No, absolutely not, because he believed she'd be a perfectly suitable missionary's wife, a fellow laborer.
It's a profoundly different kind of challenge to Jane's identity and autonomy. A logical proposition that completely ignores her emotional truth, her need for reciprocal affection.
He insists that humility is the groundwork of Christian virtues, and pressures her with appeals to duty, saying she's too consistent to withdraw from the work he sees as divinely ordained.
Jane's internal struggle is profound, deeply moving. Such a martyrdom would be monstrous. I will never undergo it. As his sister, I might accompany him, not as his wife.
She senses his hardness and despotism, his imperfection, a coldness that would just suffocate her spirit.
This is such a crucial moment of self-actualization, where she refuses to compromise her emotional truth, her natural, unenslaved feelings, even for what seems like a good cause. She refuses to be coerced into a life without genuine love.
Her direct refusal, "Mr. Rochester, I will not be yours," is such a powerful assertion of her independent will. Even though she momentarily mistakes the name, it underscores where her heart truly lies.
And that final temptation really reveals the core of Jane's character. Her absolute, unyielding need for reciprocal, passionate connection, not just a partnership of duty or spiritual alignment. Her refusal is a profound testament to her self-awareness and integrity. Her conviction that I scorn your idea of love if it's devoid of genuine emotion.
And it's right here, at this crucial point, that the uncanny returns, doesn't it? In this guiding, almost mystical form, demonstrating that deeper bond that transcends physical presence.
Yes, Jane experiences that inward sensation, a wondrous shock of feeling. A clear voice, seemingly unbidden, unlocatable, calls her name. It seemed in me, not in the external world. It was more like an inspiration.
Brontë describes it with such biblical gravitas, like the earthquake which shook the foundations of Paul and Silas's prison.
And this supernatural summons directly leads Jane back towards Thornfield, guided by a force beyond rational explanation or material reality.
Rochester later confirms it, right? He tells Jane, "Reader, it was on Monday night, near midnight, that I too had received the mysterious summons. Those were the very words by which I replied to it."
That preternatural communication, it's a true aha moment for the listener, confirming that deep, almost spiritual, and profoundly uncanny connection between Jane and Rochester, a bond that transcends distance and defies logic.
So Jane, driven by this inexplicable summons, returns to Thornfield, only to find a blackened ruin.
A devastating sight.
The grand house is utterly destroyed, and Mr. Rochester is blind and disfigured. The fire, the fall, the loss of his hand and sight, stark, devastating consequences of the past.
But also, paradoxically, a form of tragic purification, perhaps.
The local innkeeper gives Jane the grim account of the fire. It's quite certain that it was her Bertha, and nobody but her, that set it going.
Bertha's tragic, violent end, flinging herself from the battlements, it marks the final, horrifying removal of Thornfield's uncanny, repressed presence.
And Rochester's injuries, his stone-blind state and lost hand, are due to his heroism in saving the servants. A selfless act that also leaves him profoundly humbled and dependent.
That physical transformation of Rochester from the dominant, Byronic figure to this vulnerable, dependent man, it's crucial, isn't it? For Jane's ability to return to him as an equal.
The unsettling presence of Bertha, the madwoman in the attic, is now replaced by the tragic, tangible reality of her actions and Rochester's suffering.
Suffering that ultimately purifies him, maybe, and makes him truly worthy of Jane's unwavering love and independent spirit.
The final reunion at Ferndean, that remote hunting lodge, is so profoundly moving, deeply symbolic.
A scene of raw emotion and deep, abiding connection. Rochester's initial disbelief, great God, what delusion has come over me? What sweet madness has seized me?
And his desperate need for physical confirmation. I cannot see, but I must feel. It underscores his vulnerability, his profound longing for her.
He reaches out blindly, and Jane arrested his wandering hand and prisoned it in both mine. She takes control, offers comfort.
Jane's unwavering acceptance, even embracing his perceived hideousness.
Yeah.
Remember when she frankly tells him, "Very, sir.
Yeah.
You always were," with a hint of their old banter.
It's the culmination of her journey. She promises, I will be your neighbor, your nurse, your housekeeper. I find you lonely. I will be your companion, to read to you, to walk with you, to sit with you, to wait on you, to be eyes and hands to you.
And Rochester's profound statement, "I love as my own flesh. You, poor and obscure and small and plain as you are, I entreat to accept me as a husband." It seals their bond.
Their marriage isn't about external beauty or societal status. It's about deep, reciprocal love and utility.
Jane says she loves him better now when I can really be useful to you than I did in your state of proud independence.
It completely redefines what makes a relationship whole and authentic, moving beyond the superficial to a true equality where, as Brontë so beautifully puts it, spirit addresses your spirit.
So what does this all really mean for us? Jane Eyre's extraordinary journey is such a powerful testament to finding one's true self amidst profound adversity, battling not just external injustices, but those deeply internal conflicts too.
Her story is so richly laced with moments that push the boundaries of reality, reminding us that the human spirit's capacity for resilience, for love, for genuine connection, it can overcome even the most uncanny and devastating circumstances.
Absolutely. Ultimately, this narrative shows us that true connection often lies far beyond superficial appearances or rigid societal expectations.
It demands a deeper, more profound understanding of ourselves and others, and those uncanny elements, they aren't just for suspense, are they?
No, that is.
They actively reflect the often unseen struggles and profound transformations that define us, highlighting that what's hidden or unsettling can often lead to greater truth and intimacy.
We followed Jane through the harsh realities of Victorian England, confronting the unsettling injustices of Gateshead, the dehumanizing institutions of Lowood, the profound mysteries of Thornfield, only to find this love forged in honesty, mutual dependence, and a shared understanding of life's complexities.
It's a poignant reminder, isn't it, that even in ruin, even in suffering, there can be a profound, unexpected kind of wholeness.
Definitely. Which leads us to a final provocative thought for you, the listener. Consider how Jane's unwavering refusal of St. John Rivers, the seemingly ideal choice in some ways, and her ultimate choice of a scarred, blind Rochester. How does that challenge our own modern notions of what makes a desirable partner or a perfect life?
That's a great question. Does true happiness lie in pursuing an external ideal, or maybe in accepting and integrating life's uncanny imperfections and brokenness, finding beauty and wholeness within them?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Charlotte Bronte's enduring masterpiece. From the bleak corridors of Gateshead to the quiet solace of Ferndean, Jane Eyre's journey truly reveals how the most profound realities often emerge from the very heart of the unsettling and the uncanny. This has been the Uncanny Valley Podcast.